might have just gone for him. And that's really interesting to me because they're both falcons. They're members of the same group. So the falcons are a group of birds of prey that I think came up from Antarctica into South America and diversified there. And South America is still where you find the greatest diversity and variety of falcon species. So that's another one of the falcons. Some of the falcons made it into the northern world and diversified relatively recently here. But South America is still the home of the strangest radiation of falcons, and that includes the caracaras, which, as I mentioned in the book, are sort of what South America has instead of crows, if you want to think of it that way. South America doesn't have crows. Not large black crows or ravens. There are a few jays, which are crow relatives that live in the tropics, but there's nothing like the big black crows you see in just about all the world. And it's almost as if instead 10 different versions of a crow were built on a falcon chassis, and that's what the caracaras are.
Yeah, and the caracaras and all of the other different birds that you talk about, the various birds of prey. The smallest of the birds of prey, since you mentioned that peregrine falcon was smaller than the caracara, what's the smallest of the raptors?
I think it's the red-breasted falconet, which is I live in the Philippines, and it's smaller than the largest hummingbird.
Huh.
It's a little tiny thing.
What could it carry away?
Bugs.
Yeah. And the biggest currently living raptor?
Bird of prey? It's the harpy eagle by weight. By wingspan, it might be one of the African vultures. I'm not absolutely certain about that.
Okay. But all much smarter than one might think, and that is part of what you learn, is just how incredibly intelligent these birds are. What will we learn from you? You get your chance to ask Jonathan questions coming up in just a second, and he said that there are no black crows in South America, but we've got them and the numbers that you need to join the conversation coming up. Coast to Coast AM, this is Ian Punnett.
Masks don't slow us down. They keep us moving. From the corner store to the coffee shop, on your bike, or on the playground. Keep wearing a snug fitting mask with multiple cloth layers. Together, we can end this pandemic. Visit covid19.ca.gov today to learn more. Brought to you by the Center at Sierra Health Foundation.
Dean Sharp here. Nothing disrupts your life, your comfort, even your safety like a power outage. And outages are the new normal. So now is the time to set up your home with an emergency generator from Duffy Power. Duffy is Southern California's generator expert. And with 0% interest financing, emergency power totally affordable. Duffy Power, making sure your life, your comfort, and your safety are not to be interrupted. Dial pound 250 on your cell and say Duffy Power. Pound 250 Duffy Power, or on the web at DuffyPower.com.
You can listen to KFI everywhere, like you haven't noticed. It's time to move out of California because I can't stand it here anymore. Where am I going to go? Texas, where you have to have a shotgun on the back of your pickup truck? Washington, where you're so depressed you jump off of a building because it's always raining? What, Florida, where the entire state is made up of my mother, a bunch of Jewish yeses? Bill Handel, mornings from 6 to 10, KFI. I'd eaten at this Italian restaurant, and I had the most tremendous pain. I couldn't even drive myself to the emergency room. And so I get in, I'm in the fetal position, the back seat of my brother's car, and they rush me in, and I feel like I'm going to die. You know, I can't breathe. I have tremendous pain. It felt like somebody shot. So the doctor is pressing, and he's pressing, and he's pressing. He goes, "Does this hurt?" I said, "No." As he's pressing, and all of a sudden it goes, "The Tim Conway Jr. Show." $300 for weeknights at 6 on KFI.
Let's move over to the wars of the future, right? The post-apocalyptic, the post after the place falls apart.
Bill Handel.
I'll get there. I get paid to do this.
Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
This is wrong acceptable.
KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County. Live everywhere Ammeter on the iHeartRadio app.
Spell it out. I'm Brian Berman from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. 3 SoCal kids have advanced to the quarterfinals of the 2021 Scripps National Spelling Bee. A 13-year-old from Tarzana and 2 kids from Orange County are spelling their hearts out virtually. They'll compete next on Tuesday. The top spellers in the U.S. will compete for the title July 8th at the Wide World of Sports Complex in Bay Lake, Florida. The 63-year-old man has been found shot to death in his vehicle in the Crenshaw district. LAPD officers arrived at the scene on 8th Avenue about 9:30 Saturday morning to find the man with multiple gunshot wounds. He died at the scene. Firefighters have knocked down a fire inside a warehouse in Carson. LA County Fire says a pile of recycling material burned inside the building on 230th Street. The streets around the warehouse were closed for a time Saturday afternoon as firefighters worked to put the flames out. The cause of the fire is being investigated. President Biden has met with French President Emmanuel Macron during day 2 of the G7 in Cromwell, England. After the meeting, Biden said the U.S. is back to being a team player in the global community.
The European Union is an incredibly strong and vibrant entity that has a lot to do with the ability of Western Europe to not only handle its economic issues, but provide the backbone and support for NATO. And so we're very supportive.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has held meetings with German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Macron to talk about post-Brexit relations between Britain and the EU. The CDC advisory panel will have an emergency meeting next week to discuss more than 200 cases of people younger than 30 developing heart inflammation after receiving Pfizer or Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. The agency says most of the people recovered, but around 40 had lingering symptoms and more than a dozen are still in the hospital. Nearly 130 million Americans have received either the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine. Royal Caribbean says it will not change its sailing plans even after a couple tested positive for COVID-19 on its Celebrity Millennium ship, which recently set sail from Florida after being docked for more than a year due to the coronavirus. The cruise line says all those who were in close contact with the 2 guests all tested negative for the virus. SoCal weather from KFI. Clouds and fog in the LA basin. That fog will be thick and limit visibility. Lows in the 60s in the basin. Those clouds will clear by the afternoon, but they'll help keep temperatures a little cooler. Highs will be in the 70s at the beaches and 80s inland. Right now it's 61 degrees in Sherman Oaks, 61 in Culver City, 61 in Anaheim, and 61 in Hacienda Heights. We lead local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Brian Berman.
Checking KFI traffic, we do have a closure in the Fountain Valley area. Roadwork on the 405 northbound from Brookhurst to Warner. All lanes closed until 8:30 a.m. To Lancaster on the 14 north and southbound. All lanes still temporarily closed at Avenue A. That is due to a crash investigation, and traffic is being diverted off at Avenue A. To Silmar on the 5 north and southbound at the 210 connector road of the 210 east, shut down for road work there. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Jonathan Weiss.
I know you've seen all those great home loans being advertised, but you're probably not sure if you qualify. Or maybe you've been told, nope, you can't get that low rate. Well, I bet you haven't called IntelliLoan. Right now, IntelliLoan has a 1.99% rate in APR with no points or lender fees for SoCal residents. And this is even if your credit score is as low as 620. It's a 1.99% rate in APR with no points and no lender fees. And you've heard me talk about Daryl, the owner of IntelliLoan. He's got a team of home loan specialists that really want to make this home loan process not suck. They want to make it as hassle-free as possible for you. So call IntelliLoan today at 1-800-918-6200. That's 1-800-918-6200, or just go to IntelliLoan.com.
Rates subject to change without notice. Minimum loan amount requirements apply. 60% loan to value and 620 FICO credit score. Certain restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. NMLS 3290. Loans made or arranged pursuant to a California Finance Lenders Law license number 6036970. Equal housing lender. IntelliLoan. Borrow smart.
Not to be a backseat driver, but if you need to hire great people fast, you need Indeed. Sponsor a job, and you'll immediately get a list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. More at Indeed.com/credits.
Neil Saavedra here. About 3 years ago, my wife and I called American Vision Windows. They installed gorgeous French doors for us, changed the flow of our home, added architectural appeal. The next project they're doing, our kitchen windows. We can't wait. Their work is meticulous meticulous. It's outstanding. I recommended them to my brother, Craig, and now he and his family have a lovely window encased patio. Added 150 sunny square feet to their home. We all know Bill and Kathleen's story. They had a horrible experience replacing their own windows. They started their own company. Fast forward 20 years later, they continue to beautify homes like mine with personal care, complete professionalism, and attention. CSLB number 778326. Give you and your home the gift of light, warmth, and beauty. Trust the window company my family trusts. American Vision Windows. You'll see the difference. Call American Vision Windows today for that free estimate. 888-226-9908. That's 888-226-9908. Or for specials, visit AmericanVisionWindows.com.
Find the employees you need to get your business moving. Sign up with iHeartAdBuilder.com and create a custom radio ad to reach job seekers listening to stations just like this one. Get started today at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
Get sizzling solar savings now with Semper Solaris, your local veteran-owned solar and battery storage contractor. Being veteran-owned matters. Here's veteran, founder, and owner Kelly Shawhan.
In the military, when you give your word, it just is your word. Work hard and keep your word. That's what we do every single day. Everybody did exactly what they said they were going to do, and that really impressed me. I've heard about Semper Solaris and found out that they were veterans, so I knew they were going to do the job right.
Declare your energy independence. Choose solar panels made in America. We get the job done right with esprit de corps and honor. Add Tesla Powerwall and prepare for blackouts. Grab the federal 26% solar and battery tax credit. No interest or payments until 2022. Call 877-211-5591. 877-211-5591. Or visit SemperSolaris.com.
26% federal tax credit based on eligibility. Consult your tax advisor. Cannot be combined with any other offers on approved credit. New customers only. Some restrictions apply. Expires 6/30/2021. CSLB number 978152.
Hey, it's Steve Gregory with KFI. The summer weather's heating up. The kids are out of school and you're on the move. Wherever your destination is, when you have the free iHeart app, you can bring KFI and thousands of other stations just like this one with you, anytime, anywhere, on any device. That's exactly why we had it made, along with playlists to fit every mood and activity, or binge a podcast like The Death and Life of Kobe Bryant. From true crime to comedy, self-help to sports, and everything in between, only on the free iHeart Radio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one app.
Good morning, everyone. This is KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk. Don't forget that you can catch KFI everywhere and anytime on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Oscar Ramirez, and I'm the host of The Daily Dive, a daily news podcast covering some of the top stories making waves in the news. You can catch a new episode of The Daily Dive Monday through Friday on iHeartRadio, and it's ready for you when you wake up. Here on the Daily Dive Weekend Edition, I'll be bringing you some of the best stories I covered during the week. Some good news on the coronavirus front, as we might be closer to herd immunity than you think. Right now, more than 64% of adults have had at least one vaccine dose. And for those that haven't had the vaccine, about half of them have natural immunity from prior infection. When you factor in this natural immunity, the number of individuals protected is more than we think. For more on why herd immunity might not be so far off, we'll speak to Dr. Marty McCary. He's a professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and author of The Price We Pay, What Broke American Healthcare, and How to Fix It.
Well, one of the big failures of our medical leadership has been ignoring natural immunity from prior infection. And those are people who had the infection and their body developed an immune response similar to that of a vaccine. And so when you've got almost half the population or so, roughly, based on the California data, that has natural immunity, and there's lots of other data that suggests it's a lot of Americans. It's probably half, and it's probably half of the unvaccinated Americans today. That changes the calculus. It changes everything, because now getting to 80 to 85% immunity is something where we're already there. We've got 64% of adults vaccinated. And of the remaining 36%, about half have natural immunity. So that means 80 to 87% of adults in America today are walking around with immunity. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, and there's been studies done, antibody screenings that have been done that show that there's a lot more cases probably than confirmed cases that we know of. So that boosts that number up of those people that have the natural immunity. And for a long time, the discussion was we don't know how long immunity lasts, whether you're vaccinated or whether you've had COVID previously. But we're starting to get some of that data in now, and we see that natural immunity does last for quite some time, it seems like.
It's powerful. And as a matter of fact, the data that have come out in the last few weeks from the Cleveland Clinic and Washington University are showing that natural immunity is durable. We've had it around, by the way, longer than we've had vaccines. So we have more follow-up data on natural immunity than vaccinated immunity. And guess what? So far, natural immunity is strong, durable, and many scientists believe it's long-lasting and it may be lifelong.
Public health officials keep saying, everybody should get vaccinated, even those that have previously had it. How does this factor into that? I mean, should those that have previously fallen ill with it still get vaccinated?
I don't think so. I mean, public health officials are basically just making stuff up as they go. They don't know about the power of natural immunity, so they just say, you know what, if you've had the infection, I don't know, just get the vaccine anyway. The data are out now. They're very compelling. We've had this for a while, and we're trying to make a solid case that if we follow the science would tell us there's no benefit to the vaccine after you have natural immunity. And just remember, I'm not just talking about you tested positive. I'm talking about you had symptoms, you were sick, and you tested positive. If you know you've had COVID, the data from Cleveland Clinic shows no added benefit of the vaccine.
Yeah, you even said in some cases maybe people could benefit from one shot because we already know that it starts boosting up those antibodies. So at the very least, if you wanted to, you can maybe just do one or something.
That's right, and that's what I've been recommending to people because they say, well, should I just get it anyway? Is there any downside? And the reality is, no, not really. And you can almost think of your COVID infection in the past as a first dose.
Right, exactly. Variants, those are always pop up in conversations like this, things that can evade the immunity that's given to you because of the vaccines, all that. How should we proceed thinking about those?
Well, we've had hundreds of variants, and none have evaded the protective effect of vaccines in saving someone's life or preventing serious critical illness. So that says a lot. Now, I am very mindful of what we're seeing overseas because in England, there's been a little bump in cases, and I expect there to be some rolling increases over the summer and the fall. But we're not going to see spikes. We're going to see maybe the Delta variant, which is more contagious, kind of move quickly through the younger populations that are still unvaccinated. And it's something to be aware of and not be surprised by.
Right, exactly. Doctor, I did want to ask you, because you are a surgeon and you deal with transplant patients as well, and we've been hearing that in some studies, some transplant patients, people who are immunocompromised, aren't getting the full benefits of the vaccine. Have you found that to be true?
In people who are immunocompromised, they may want to get their antibody level checked, and if it's not high enough, go ahead and get a third dose in some cases.
And that's just a byproduct of the drugs that they're taking to, prevent their bodies from rejecting those organs?
That's right. Their bodies are not mounting a strong immune response because their immune systems may be suppressed. So those are things now where we're having conversations with lots of doctors nationwide to say, go ahead and get your third dose if you've had an organ transplant or immunosuppressed and you don't see any antibodies after your second dose.
So, this is some of the good news that, really don't hear about too much. Factoring in that natural immunity is very important. And a lot of places are opening up. California specifically, where I live, is opening up next week. That's good news. So we're getting there, which is very important. So thank you on all that front and kind of helping us with all that. Doctor, before we go, I did want to mention your book, The Price We Pay, What Broke American Healthcare and How to Fix It. It's a look into what's going wrong with the healthcare system right now. Tell us a little bit about it.
We need to treat more diabetes with cooking classes instead of just throwing insulin at people. And we need to treat more back pain with ice and physical therapy than just surgery and opioids. This is the movement that we are watching right now in the United States, and it's good and it's exciting, and it's finally addressing overtreatment, over-medicating, and price gouging on the financial side. These are things that we can address through increased awareness and promoting the types of clinics that advance this kind of stuff. And people can vote with their choices in terms of where they go for their health care. And it's a very good movement right now, and that's what I profile in this new paperback book.
Dr. Marty McCary, professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, Bloomberg School of Public Health, and Carey Business School. Thank you very much for joining us.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
This week we we also had some unsettling news in the tech world. Amazon is currently sharing your internet connection with your neighbors, and they didn't even give you a chance to opt out. Using Amazon-connected devices such as Echo smart speakers and Ring cameras, they launched a new kind of wireless network called Sidewalk. Amazon says it will improve the effectiveness of its devices, but you also have no control over the information shared on this network. For more on how to turn off the Sidewalk network on your devices, we'll speak to Jeffrey Fowler, tech columnist at the Washington Post.
This fits in a tradition of Silicon Valley giant tech companies sort of deciding to make changes to do things with our data or with our technology and then only giving us the option to opt out of it later rather than getting our permission before we go in. Now, the premise of Sidewalk is a little bit kind of hard to understand, but let me see if I can break it down. So lots of people, more and more Americans, are getting smart home devices. I'm talking like both smart speakers, but also the lights or the thermostat, or you name it, or the security systems like the doorbells, all that kind of stuff. And Amazon is one of the biggest makers of these kinds of devices and also one of the biggest sellers. And so it's saying like, look, a lot of people have trouble setting up these devices because maybe their home Wi-Fi network doesn't stretch far enough, or their house is just too big to cover all that space. So the idea with Sidewalk is Amazon wants to cover American cities and also suburbs with another kind of network. It's not like Wi-Fi, it's like much lower bandwidth, much less data goes through it, but it can travel much farther. So with the Sidewalk network, for example, a single Amazon Echo device, one of those speakers, can extend a wireless network to up to like half a mile away. So imagine that, like a single device is going to be sharing an internet connection with just a whole neighborhood of people. So Amazon's argument for this is like, look, by you like lending a hand a little bit, you're going to make sure that everybody in your neighborhood can have a cool smart home.
Yeah, and I guess one of the arguments they say too is let's say there's a Wi-Fi outage at your house with your Ring camera or something like that. If it's connected to this network, it'll still work, it'll still activate because it's connected to this Sidewalk network. So in that sense, I guess it kind of makes sense. But as you mentioned, the whole not allowing you to opt out of this thing was kind of an issue. And you may be thinking, hey, well, I have an older device or something. The connectivity for these things go back to at least 2018 in some of the Amazon Echo smart speakers.
That's right. So they've been putting the technology to enable Sidewalk into some of these devices going back to 2018. On those early devices, it was just using kind of a Bluetooth technology, but in the newer ones, they've got this kind of long-range wireless that can really stretch really far. And look, there are plenty of good uses for this technology, as we were saying. But the problem is Amazon is once again not answering important questions about how far this will go. We know that Amazon is a company that has really big ambitions for things, right? So I asked them, okay, so now that you are going to have this nationwide network that you control, are you going to use it for your own business? Are you going to use it to track packages? Are you going to use it to track your drivers? Are you going to use it for your drones that you've talked about that you want to send around America? They wouldn't answer the question. Another thing we know this network is probably going to be used for is, frankly, to extend surveillance into corners of cities and communities where network just didn't reach before, right? So that's going to mean more surveillance, more cameras, more sensors, more everything, and that data, of course, always inevitably ends up with the police. So there's a big reason to think that if you participate in Sidewalk, you're actually helping Amazon build Big Brother.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on KFI AM 640 and everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation about Amazon's new Sidewalk network and how to turn it off on your devices.
Graduating from high school can leave you with a lot of questions about your future. You can find the answers to those questions at a California community college. So don't wait. Enroll now for the fall semester. Online and in-person classes are available with year-round financial aid to help. Plus, with guaranteed transfer to a safe spot at a four-year university and hundreds of career programs to choose from, your future is looking brighter than ever. Classes can fill up quickly, so grab your spot now. Visit stayenrolled.com today.
Gearing up for summer travels? Starting to dream of beaches and the open road? Time to ditch the extra baggage. Hey, it's Conway here, and I want to talk to you real quickly about the folks at Cars for Kids. Did you know that donating your car to them could take just a few minutes? You either donate online at carsforkids.org or call 877-CARS-FOR-KIDS. Whatever condition your vehicle's in, they'll be glad to help. You'll get fast free towing, a tax-deductible receipt, and a free hotel stay. Donate now at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Thinking of buying a house and want a really low interest rate? Owning has a special for home purchases, where Owning pays all your closing costs, and the rate in APR is an unheard of 1.875% for a 15-year fixed mortgage with 20% down. This is the craziest low rate for a mortgage with no closing costs that Owning has ever done. 1.875% rate in APR. Heck, we're almost paying you to live in a new house. Call 833-2-OWNING or go to owning.com to see if you qualify for this crazy low 1.875% rate. That's a fixed rate loan at 1.875% with no closing costs. Call 833-2-OWNING now because 1.875 could go away at any time.
NMLS 2611, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Subject to credit approval. Offer assumes the use of lender's choice escrow and title services. Call 833-858-0066 for terms and conditions.
That's 833-2-OWNING or owning.com. 833-2-OWNING or owning.com.
Contractor license 1047-781. In a desert climate like this one, air conditioners last only about 11 years. That's still a long time if you compare it to the life of a computer or the average car. The way to make your car last longer is to change the oil. How do you make air conditioners last long? Get an annual rejuvenation from Gettle. If you've got one of the old ACs that use Freon, you're going to need to replace that because it's illegal to manufacture or import Freon to the U.S. these days. You know what I'm going to do for just $129? What? I'm going to send America's best AC tech to make 6 critical adjustments to bring that air conditioner back to factory specs. We got to clean those outside coils while we're there. You bet. And we're going to clean them the right way, not the easy way. Best $129 you'll ever spend. A Gettle Rejuvenation makes your system cool better and faster so that your home uses less energy and has fewer breakdowns. Gettle. It rhymes with kettle, except it starts with a G and it's spelled really weird. Gettle. G-O-E-T-T-L. Will keep you cool, but it's hard to spell.
Hey, it's Dean Sharp. Sunday on Home, we're talking water. Black water, gray water, soft water, hard water, water heaters, water filters, water softeners, water problems. Don't worry, I'm going to help you get your water figured out.
Home with Dean Sharp, the House Whisperer, this morning at 9 on KFI AM 640.
More stimulating talk.
This is KFI AM 640. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. 2 questions on this now. How much does it cost us? Because they are taking some of our internet stuff that we're paying for. And then security. My understanding, they say that they have 3 layers of encryption, which I guess would make it pretty secure, but we've never dealt with this type of side network working off of our Wi-Fi and all that.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about security first. You got it exactly right. They say they've got it triple encrypted. Nobody's going to be able to break in. Some security folks I know have looked at it and they say they're impressed, but nothing is foolproof. And this is a new kind of network that has not been tested at scale before, right? It's not been a high-profile target, so we don't know if someone's going to be able to break into it. And if they do, they would then possibly get access to the data that's traveling over it, which could be stuff about people's homes. So there is a reason to be concerned about that. And yes, the other thing you pointed out, which I think is super key here, is Amazon is building a nationwide network and getting us to pay for it. I mean, we literally are paying for it. We're buying these devices, installing them in our homes, and giving them access to our internet connections that we pay Comcast or Charter or whoever $65 or more a month to get. Now, Amazon has put a max limit on the amount of data that Sidewalk will use in a month. That's 500 megabytes. That's only a portion of probably what you use at home over a month, but it's still something. And a lot of people have data caps on their internet plans. If you go over, you have to pay that overage, not Amazon.
All right, now the good and bad news. The bad news is by the time you heard this already, it's been turned on. The good news is that it's fairly easy to turn off. In most cases, you just got to go in your settings, go around until you find Sidewalk, and then you can turn that off.
That's right. So Amazon did not ask your permission to turn it on, but you do have the ability to opt out. So to do that, first of all, you need to have one of these devices that works with Sidewalk. We hear from some folks, I went and looked at my settings, but I didn't see it. That's because you don't have one of these devices that's new enough. It really started with the 2018 devices. If you've got one of the original Echoes or something, it's fine. So if you have one of these newer devices, you go into the Alexa app, you find your way to settings, then account settings, and then inside there you'll see Amazon Sidewalk. I've got a
a step-by-step picture guide in my column in the Washington Post.
Jeffrey Fowler, tech columnist at the Washington Post. Thank you very much for joining us.
You bet, and stay safe out there.
As we've been hearing a lot more about ransomware attacks in the country, this week we heard that the U.S. was able to recover a portion of the money that was paid out in the ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline. The FBI was able to seize $2.3 million of the $4.4 million that was paid out to the Russian hacker group DarkSide. While some details are being kept secret by the feds, they were able to access the private key to DarkSide's digital Bitcoin wallet. For more on this twist in the ransomware attack, we'll speak to Kevin Collier, reporter at NBC News.
This is a tactic that is not something that we have been aware of in any of the number of kind of open and on that the FBI and Secret Service have opened up into ransomware gangs. So there are so many victims. There have been more than 1,000 ransomware attacks this year alone. That's just ones we know about. The number's probably 3 times that size. And this is a new tactic that we're learning about. And the FBI is very specific about what it's saying. And I had a call with a special agent in charge that saw this yesterday. And they're being vague on purpose because they don't want to tip off the hackers how exactly they were able to seize this.
Yeah, this was done by a recently launched ransomware and digital extortion task force. They were able to access the private key or password for the gang's Bitcoin wallet. My understanding was that, a lot of times when these things happen, they're moving the money constantly, so you can't keep tracking it. But this amount of money was sitting there for some time. They were able to find it and get in that way. So I guess the other part of the question is, how did they get that password, that private key? And that's kind of one of the big mysteries right now.
The kind of $1 million question here is, did the hackers do something incredibly stupid where they were just hosting it on some sort of U.S. service and let the FBI just easily get a warrant and just take it over? Or was it something more complicated, more technically adept that somehow, hacked something more fundamental to the internet infrastructure? And like I said, they're being deliberately vague. Did they have help from other agencies, maybe ones that are known for technical prowess? That we don't know either.
One of the other things that worked in their favor is that a lot of the internet infrastructure is based in the United States. They were able to get warrants surrounding this. They don't know if people in the cryptocurrency companies are not help the FBI, but this was kind of one of the things that were working in their favor.
There's a lot of speculation early on that it was Coinbase. Coinbase said, no, we were not a part of this. But as a general rule, this is a massive advantage the United States has over the rest of the world in that so much of the dominant internet infrastructure comes from Silicon Valley, is physically located in the United States. And, the United States government, when it wants to flex its muscles, often is able to, have substantial power that way.
The Colonial Pipeline CEO, his name is Joseph Blunt, he was speaking before a Senate hearing and kind of explained his actions on why he paid the ransom initially. He said, I thought it would just be best for the country to get this done quickly. They paid the ransom. The key that they gave them to recover their data was working so slow that they ended up using their own backup systems to restore everything to the pipeline. But what else did he say in that Senate hearing about why he paid this ransom?
Well, he's framed this as, this is a national security issue. I mean, it's true, Americans were freaking out at the possibility of not having, quite as much fuel, gas shutdowns. But he just framed this as, didn't know a ton about ransomware. He had not planned a ransomware-specific scenario for the company, and so he took every option he could right off the table. A lot of ransomware experts will tell you that it can often be easier to use the FBI's tools, CISA, Department of Homeland Security's defensive agencies' tools. Well, a lot of private companies have encryptor tools that are more effective for most ransomware strains than the ones that the ransomware gangs will sell to you. And DarkSide in particular was kind of infamous for having a very slow decryptor. So if he hit the brakes a little bit and then talked to some experts before paying, he would have been able to do this more quickly to begin with.
Right. Yeah, and DarkSide itself, I guess they became active around October. They've already extorted $90 million out of different companies and entities, So they're still plugging away at all of this. The FBI obviously was making the call to, hey, this is great, we are able to do this, but they made the plea for other companies or whoever else gets attacked by this to come to them so they can help, work these tools. Maybe it won't work for everybody, but at least they can help, because before this, the prevailing line was don't pay the ransom, all that jazz. But, so they're asking for people to come forward when they get hacked.
We really are seeing a big escalation in U.S. response to ransomware. I've done this for several years, and it has just steadily increased. There have been so many hospitals, so many schools, so many cities, police departments, manufacturing companies, so many targets that hit. And, as you mentioned, they've recently escalated or elevated the threat to the same equivalent status as terrorism has been, and we're seeing a substantially stronger response from the U.S. government.
Well, they were able to recover some of that money. We'll see how this goes. We just been hearing more and more about these ransomware attacks that you mentioned, police departments. I think I've heard of some news coming about that coming down the pipeline pretty soon. It's affecting everybody all over the place. And obviously, as you mentioned, the worry is that critical infrastructure increasingly becomes a target. So we'll see what happens with all of that. Kevin Collier, reporter at NBC News, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on KFI AM 640 and everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. I'll be back with some more top stories from the week, but first, let's get an update from the KFI newsroom.
KFI, news on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks.
I'm Brian Bruman from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. The FBI has questioned a man who threatened to take a plane down on board a flight from L.A. to Atlanta. The man was tackled by passengers and an off-duty pilot, and the plane landed safely in Oklahoma City Friday night. ABC's Kenneth Moten says this kind of disruption has been happening a lot.
Out of the 2,900 reports since January 1st, 2,200 refusing to comply with the mask mandate. And just last week, a Delta flight from LA to Nashville made an emergency stop after a passenger also tried to get into the cockpit. That man eventually restrained with zip ties.
The FAA says 2,900 reports of unruly passengers since the start of the year is a record. A man has been hit and killed by an Amtrak train in North Hollywood. This happened on Lankershim Boulevard around 9 Saturday morning. An Amtrak Pacific Surfliner passenger train hit the guy on the railroad tracks. No one on the train was hurt. SoCal weather from KFI brought to you by Discover. Low clouds and fog in the LA basin. We lead local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Brian Berumen.
Checking KFI traffic, we do have a crash in the Corona area, 91 westbound at Green River. The two right lanes are blocked there. Also through the Selmar area, look out for a wreck on the 5 northbound at the 210. That's blocking the center lane. In Downey on the 5 northbound at Paramount Boulevard, a crash there blocking the right lane. Look out in Baldwin Park on the 605 southbound at the 10. Two-car collision there blocking the left lane. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Jonathan Weiss.
Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. It's amazing because Discover is accepted at 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report limitations apply.
I know you've seen all those great home loans being advertised, but you're probably not sure if you qualify. Or maybe you've been told, nope, you can't get that low rate. Well, I bet you haven't called IntelliLoan. Right now, IntelliLoan has a 1.99% rate in APR with no points or lender fees for SoCal residents, and this is even if your credit score is as low as 620. It's a 1.99% rate in APR with no points and no lender fees. And you've heard me talk about Daryl, the owner of IntelliLoan. He's got a team of home loan specialists that really want to make this home loan process not suck. They want to make it as hassle-free as possible for you. So call IntelliLoan today at 1-800-918-6200. That's 1-800-918-6200, or just go to IntelliLoan.com.
Rates subject to change without notice. Minimum loan amount requirements apply. 60% loan to value and 620 FICO credit score. Certain restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. NMLS 3290. Loans made or arranged pursuant to a California Finance Lenders Law license number 6036970. Equal housing lender. IntelliLoan. Borrow smart.
Whether it's offering curbside or next-day delivery for online orders on over 160,000 parts, or getting involved in their local communities, when it comes to serving you, Napa's motor never quits. That's Napa know-how.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, helped me pay for my house.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service. Sponsored by the California Army National Guard. Aired by the California Broadcasters Association and this station.
Find the employees you need to get your business moving. Sign up with iHeartAdBuilder.com and create a custom radio ad to reach job seekers listening to stations just like this one. Get started today at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
Live and local.
KFI AM 640.
An iHeart radio station.
This is KFI AM 640, heard everywhere in the iHeart Radio app. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. A big story that broke this week, and it's something that we always knew that was happening. Ultra-rich Americans paying little to no taxes even as their wealth was increasing. ProPublica obtained IRS data on the top 25 richest Americans and how they maneuver the tax system by claiming very little taxable income, borrowing money, or reporting investment losses, all to offset paying taxes. For more on how billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, and others sometimes get away with paying zero in taxes, we'll speak to Jeff Ernsthausen, senior data reporter at ProPublica.
So our first story is about a very basic concept in some ways, which is that you and I, when we work to live, we earn wages or salary. Taxes are taken automatically out of our paychecks every month. The ultra-wealthy are not in the tax system in the same way. So the bulk of their wealth, as it grows, it's not taxed until they choose to do something like, say, sell stocks. So they can accrue vast wealth, which is really like the equivalent of income for us, and not pay taxes on it. And so you mentioned in some years, billionaires have managed to pay nothing in federal income tax. Jeff Bezos paid no income taxes twice in 2007 and 2011. Elon Musk paid nothing in 2018. And in recent years, billionaire investors George